Hey, everybody, welcome to the Witching Hour. Yes, the hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens. I have one of my favorite people for you today. He is an artist, he is an author, he is a witch, the one and only Jeff Cullen. Welcome back, Jeff. Thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Patty. I absolutely love your show, so it is an honor to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, we've done a few things together, usually relating to the goddess Hecate and things, and weekends in Massachusetts, and all sorts of fun things that I've gotten so much from. Um, so basically, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, you kind of were raised like this, correct? A magical
Yeah.
lifestyle. So,
Yep. So I come from a family of witches. My mom and my sisters, they're witches. We kind of have a little family tradition. It's very instinctual. So it's a lot of like kind of adapting and using what you have. And that's kind of what I like to put in my work and all what the methods I like to teach when I teach witchcraft.
that's beautiful. So, and the artist part, was the artist always part of your magic or your magic? Because you make the most beautiful statues and deity statues like Hecate statues. One of my favorite places, Crooked Path in Los Angeles, Burbank here has the world's biggest beautiful statue. I have one sitting in my car. So did your art lead to your magic and spirituality? Did your spirituality lead to your art?
Yeah, so I think what happened was I was always intrigued by Greek mythology, by monsters, stuff like that. So whenever I would do art as a child, it always reflect. So whether it's like the classic Universal Studios monsters, up through the Minotaur, Medusa, and then when I started to really hone in on the more religious aspects of witchcraft, because growing up, our witchcraft wasn't attached to any like specific religion. We just kind of did it. So we weren't really working with uh, deities by name. We were just kind of working with nature. And then as I got older, I started to get into Wicca, and I couldn't find a god and goddess statue that I resonated with. So I was like, you know what? I know how to draw. It can't be that much more difficult to sculpt. So I got some clay and I just sculpted these very basic clay molded icons for my altar. Over time, I started to get better and better. I got my first Hecate commission, so it wasn't even for me. This is before I really knew anything about Hecate specifically. Um, and I did it for the client. I went to hand it to her, and it just started like falling apart. I was mortified, so I was like, "Oh my god, let me redo this for you." And they recommended me to use a different type of clay. So I remade her, gave her to the client, and then I had the original. I was like, I'm going to try to sell this again. So I set her up on my altar to take pictures. I just got this rush of energy that I've never felt before. It was like this unlocked the actual pathway to magic. And, growing up as a kid, we always had things like three dogs. We always had snakes just come out of everywhere on our property. We were always surrounded by ghosts and things like that. And when this kind of unlocked for me, I went to my family and I introduced, I was like, all right, so there's this goddess Hecate. She's the goddess of witches. She has to do with all these different things. And my mom was the one who said, I think I've met her. When you were little, when I was like 5 years old, I was running from her. At the time we lived in an old mansion that was converted into an inn. It was super cool, super haunted. It was awesome. And I was running, and it was actually out through Great Crossroads. And as I was running to the street, a woman appeared out of nowhere and picked me up. And my mom thanked her profusely. And when she looked up, she was literally gone. Like she looked in all directions. She was just disappeared. And she said that my artwork, she was noticing that the faces of my Hecate statues resembled the woman who saved me. So she's like, it was Hecate. Like this was all meant to be. So here we are today.
Wow. Do you remember that experience at all, or just from your mom's?
Very, very vaguely. Like I think I remember the part where I was running from her and like kind of making her a game because she would try to be like, oh, come here, like don't run, like try to stay calm in that situation. And every time she would walk towards me, I would run more. So it's just And the things I've heard that story all growing up, but she never, she thought it was like she just called him my guardian angel. Until I started sculpting and casting, and then she saw her face and she's like, that is who saved you.
Wow. That is amazing. So she is your primary goddess that you work with. You work with her
Yep.
in plan. And
Correct.
you certainly have a book. We've got this called Libra Catatonia. One of my
Mhm.
favorite magic witchcraft books. You could tell by how many old business cards I put in it by
Mhm.
working. So tell us about this a little bit for anybody who has interest in this. It's
Yeah.
so
So that's
different than most
basically,
books.
yeah. So that's basically a collection of my research and our family practice. So when I was approached to do the book, it was for a publisher. And, I was kind of adamant that like, this is going to be my voice. It's going to be literally what we do, what my family does. Um, and I just kind of started writing, and I'm kind of like an amateur academic. My mom has a master's in English and master's in literature. So we were raised very, very, um, um, strict when it came to citing sources and, writing styles, stuff like that. So I wanted to make this book not only practical for people who want to work with the Hecate, but I also wanted to make it extremely well researched and academic, citing all my sources, making sure everything was in line, so that people can know that our tradition, while it is very practical and very like, it's not very ceremonial. I mean, there are rituals in there, but it is based in historical research. So it is like almost like a modernization of ancient practice. So I just threw everything in there. I just literally took my grimoire and I just started writing everything that's in there. Here's the incense, here's the oils, here's the right to this, here's the right over that. And I was kind of nervous putting it out there because it is so different, and it is like, a lot of people do like, um, you know, more almost Wicca-centric books, like things that you can kind of recognize. And this kind of like was detached from that style of work. My publisher, the original people, they ended up not being able to publish it because they had too many changes that I couldn't do, just because like, this is our tried and true tradition. They wanted me to kind of make it a little bit more light, geared more towards Wiccans. And I was like, I literally can't do that. Like, you wanted me to write my book, so I did. So they released me from the contract, let me do my thing. And I was scared when I first released it because I was like, how is this going to be received? And I was pleasantly surprised with the reception that I got. Um, but I wanted to be a one-stop shop. So you have rituals for almost everything. You have witchcraft, you have recipes, you have what specific plants are associated with Hecate, what stones, what animals, stuff like that. So, along with a really good, solid foundation of history.
That's good. Again, it really is like you could just go through it and just it's like start at the beginning and go through and learn as you go. That's so different, and then you could know everything you want to know. You do. I mean, you have specific Hekates, stones and deities and things like that along the way, but you also have a nice work with what you have attitude to things too. That,
Yep.
if that makes sense, which I think is really nice because you can't always find Eye of Newt. Mhm.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that was one of the things, like, what I always tell people, like, this is my way of doing it. It does not have to be your way of doing it. So basically, I use it as either you can do the way that I do it in the book if you have access to all the stuff that I put in there, or you can use it as a framework for creating your own tradition. So if there's, for example, you were creating a vessel and you didn't have all the ingredients I personally put in the vessel, you can adapt it and be like, all right, well, I don't have all this. I'm still going to make this with what I have. So it doesn't have to be exact. I just give you the reasoning behind why I'm doing it, and then you make it your own thing.
It's beautiful. So you talk about what we talk about the witch flame. If somebody's not sure, that's that spark that's in witches, probably what happened to you when you saw who this woman was. So
Yep.
well, I have a lot of new people, new to the practice, new to the craft, are just learning a lot. How might practitioners discover and wield what that is? There a step by step thing, or just follow your heart, or what would you say?
So usually this people who are anointed by the witch flame, this is something that happens really early in childhood. And there are signs. So for example, a lot of times we grow up and we see kids playing with a Ouija board, right? and someone's always pushing it. Yeah, right. And it's like going crazy. But there's always one child, even if they're pushing it, even if they're still getting a message. So they're still in tune with something and they're actually producing actual message.
That was me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, um, that's kind of like the first sign that you're like, all right, so something's going on with this kid. We'll kind of look at this a little further. And then as they grow up, they get more and more into occult practices. Have more of an interest in this stuff. And the desire to it, the gravity that's pulling you to it, that is telling you you have this flame burning atop your crack. So the way that I explain it, and the reason why I work with pan and copy is very complex, but to kind of put it into simple terms, it has to do with that flame energy. So the witch flame is the spiritual side of creation. So it's the spiritual force that birthed everything. It's that spark that created everything from nothing. And that's how we kind of manifest something from nothing as well. Whereas Pan is ruled by the eternal fire. This is that physical force that burns within us. So this is our willpower, our drive. The way you can look at it is if you put a flame in front of a mirror, those two flames are the witch flame and the eternal fire. One is the reflection of the flame. It does not give off heat. You can't touch it, but you know it's there. The other one gives off heat. It has physical presence. So the witch flame is that spiritual reflection of the physical world's willpower. So we use our force of will to draw force from the fiery ether what we want.
It's beautiful. Now, we see even from social media that Hecate is a very popular goddess these days, and more as we
Yeah,
get into the crazy world we live in. Um, I think personally it's just because she's more needed now than Aphrodite
yeah,
great, but no, we
yeah,
let's go here.
right.
And oftentimes, many traditional depictions are she's a little domestic and a little protective, but yours really are raw. They can be terrifying. They can be
Mhm.
underworldly. With the darker side, the darker face of her. What do you think that means for modern witchcraft, and do you think that's what's adding to this popularity?
Absolutely. So one of the things with Hecate and like Pan, she's a liminal goddess. So she can transcend the physical and the spiritual realms. So she's very present. The results you get when you work with her are very real. Um, a lot of times when you see these ancient depictions and the depictions that kind of led the way to the modern depictions we have today, they're from Athens. So Athens was actually a very conservative city state in ancient Greece. It wasn't as liberal as, for example, Sparta or anywhere in the Peloponnese. So these depictions are often her in that more domestic light where she's a guardian of the gate or she's the guardian of the road. So my depiction specifically harnesses her as Queen of Witches. So this is that snake-haired goddess from the PGN, which means a Greek master fiery. Uh, she is bare-breasted like Medea and like other witches of the ancient world where they were bearing breasts and let down their hair to cast their magic. A lot of people think that my image is sexualizing, but it's actually liberating. You know, to those Athenians, that conservative city state, when a woman embraces her womanhood, when she bears her breasts and lets down her hair, that's showing that she is now um, unrestrained by the civilized, so to speak. She is now in touch with her femininity. She's in touch with the goddess herself, and she can't be controlled anymore. So that's one of the reasons why Hecate is becoming so popular because we have these surprisingly in the 2025 we have these things we now have to fight for again. So here comes this goddess of liberation, this goddess who's burying her breast in defiance and saying, we can do this, you can defeat these people. So it's no wonder that she's just spreading far and wide. She's in some traditions she's the mother of the Gorgon, so Medusa is one of her daughters. The most protective, empowering symbol of the ancient world being Medusa's head. So like we have this link to defiance, to accepting, especially for women, that ability to kind of tap into a side that is freeing them from social constriction, and then just self-empowerment, knowing that you do have the ability to control forces that are unseen to impart justice.
That's beautiful. And again, what we need right now, since it's all been taken away from us. Now you
Exactly.
work, yeah, it's scary. So you work again, and your approach. I love your approach. Learned a lot from you. I've studied with under thing. Your approach working with spirits. You work with curses. You work with puppets. I have a new book with puppets. Um, uh, and demonic forces. How do
Mhm.
you balance your power with the responsibility of that, working in these areas that most people don't even understand, coming fear baits? Is there guidance for seekers exploring these paths as well, that a little heavier, a little
Right. Yeah. So the first thing to kind of understand is the force themselves. Especially when you're working with things like demonic entities and the chthonic underworldly forces. These are spirits of the darker side of nature. So if you understand these elements in nature, you can understand the spirits more. For example, gods of the underworld, they are spirits of or beings that are controlling decay, death, transmutation of matter, and also things like renewal, the rejuvenation or the immortality of the soul, things like that. You have demonic forces, which are these wild, ferocious, infernal beings, but really they represent the dangers and these shadow forces within nature itself. So those things that make us afraid when we're in nature. So you can kind of tap into that mindset and respect them, it's a lot easier to work with these forces. You do so with reverence, respect. These are very somber, very heavy forces, as you mentioned. And, just become familiar with them before you try to summon them. So what I usually do is like, tell people to get out of your comfort zone when it comes to engaging with these things. So for example, if you're afraid of walking in the woods, at night. Go on a walk in the woods at night. Become used to that fear, desensitize yourself to that fear. It'll make you a lot more efficient when you're working with these forces. Same with cemeteries, spend time in cemeteries. This is where got in trouble with the book. This is for entertainment purposes only, but spending time in cemeteries at night, desensitizing you from that fear. And there's no right and wrong in your approach. These beings are sentient. They do have understanding, the capacity to understand. So, if you're approaching them and you need something, a lot of this stuff comes, a lot of the lore around, especially demonic energies comes from Abrahamic or Christian religions, which really hone in on their violent, dangerous aspects. But if you look at them as that shadows force of nature, you're going to kind of understand them a little different. It's not necessarily that they're going to be violent and wrathful towards you. It's just that nature is dangerous. So you have to respect it and you have to approach it as such. So if you just respect it, you kind of go in there like, hey, I'm going to petition you. I'm going to give you these things that you like. Help me do this. And just kind of don't be afraid. Just for example, I work with Belial, some it pronounced different, but and I see him as kind of like one of the Panes from ancient Greece, one of the multiplicities of Pan, but a more demonized and raw aspect of it. The kind of like, all right, Christianity came in, they're kind of destroying all this stuff, so I need to become this devil to overcome it. So if you kind of respect them, where they come from, what they are, you're going to be a lot more successful in magic.
good, good. And again, you grew up very much in the nature before the goddess thing dispelled with gods and goddesses. So
Yep.
did that really affect you growing up? You grew up in the forests of central New York, right? And with part of family and your ritual. So you really knew nature and the spirits of nature.
Exactly. And that's how I actually first came in contact with Pan when we first moved onto the property. So we had 21 acres of land. It was field and forest. And I remember when we were exploring, we just moved there and there was this rock that was in the middle of the field and the field is surrounded by forest on all sides. And I remember kind of getting a vision, a flash of him sitting there playing his pipes. So growing up, I would always bring stuff to that rock, like offerings and stuff like that. Like either like a little fluorite stone or some coins. and I would give them to Pan and pet that rock. And then, kind of growing up, I almost like shifted to like that wake up morning god construct where I stopped associating him with Pan specifically. So it's funny, like Wicca is an amazing religion and it worked for a lot of people. For me, it did not. And I think that's because I had such a specific call to Pan and Hecate that when I started to deviate from it, they're like, no, we have to pull you back. So when I started to, when I started to kind of like accidentally get rid of Pan's visage where I was doing that and try to make it this type thing, vision, it stopped working. So I stopped feeling presence there, until I reverted back to working with Pan. So growing up in nature really influenced a lot of our witchcraft. We would forage for plants. We would pick mushrooms off the forest floor. We would steal pots and put them in the woods and make little bonfires and make potions and stuff. And we'll make witches' brooms with big tree branches and, stuff from the field. So, that really did cement the foundation of what the rest of our practice would become later in life.
That's beautiful. So tell us about your art a little bit. Jeff Cullen Artistry, right? That is literally a company, a thing that you have.
Yes, it is.
Um, so how much of that is it the art in itself? How much of it is combined with the magic, with the spirituality?
So when I am depicting gods and goddesses and different spirits, I usually start with ones that I actually work with. So these images were created for my personal practice. So it'll be like prints or statues, stuff like that. And then I decided to start offering them, you know, mass produced, mass marketing. So you'll find a lot of Hekate stuff, a lot of fan stuff. Poseidon is another one of my favorite gods. So a lot of this, like the oils that I offer on my site are literally for those aspects of the gods in witchcraft. So for example, I have my Hecate, Queen of Witches oil, my Pyr, King of Witches oil, my Poseidon, Lord of Celestial Waters. That's more of a power, like a cosmic power of Poseidon rather than just simply a terrestrial aspect of him. And those I use in my work. So if I'm doing a spell and I need to work with Poseidon, I will use that specific oil or Hermes or Calypso. So these are things that I actually work with in my practice. I would say pretty much 99% of Jeff Cullen artistry is stuff that I actually, and I just feel like operating because I'm like, oh my God, this oil is awesome. So I'm going to let people buy it too.
No, I have some of your oils, I have some of your concoctions, and they really are just magic.
Saying,
um, so what do you have coming up? Anything good new
so
projects that you could talk about yet?
yeah, absolutely. So, I am currently finishing up the Libra Forbis, which is the companion book to Libra Catatonia. So this one is the Pan version. So this is
Mm.
his rites, his rituals. This is going to be how that eternal fire works in witchcraft, how the two of them work together. Um, I also have so with the tariffs and everything going on, it's difficult for me to mass produce statues anymore. So I actually bought a resin 3D printer, so I will be producing a lot more statues. This is going to give me a lot more freedom to offer my altar statues. I just have to scan them, which I have a 3D scanner as well. So I will be adding more to my website as far as statuary goes. And I'm also writing a smaller book on one of Hecate's specific epithets, which is Catatonia. So Hecate of the sea. This is a really awesome aspect of her, a really misunderstood aspect of her. So I think it'll be really valuable for the community that's attracted to that specific app.
So what is that aspect in simple terms without we'll have to hold off and buy the book.
Yeah, so that is Hecate of this in her sea aspect. So this is where she's um almost synchronized with Keto, who is the mother of the Gorgons, mother of the Grey Sisters, and Scylla. She's also called Critias, which is something like I think it translates to dark or something like that. And so basically it goes over her role in the sea because one of the things is a lot of people associate Catatonia with almost like a Yemaya, Mamiwata, like nurturing force. But this is actually the deep breath stealing, life stealing sea. So this is actually really one of Hecate's most terrifying aspects. This is where, that fear, that primal fear of the water comes from. She is the Hadal realm, which is the basically the bottom of the trenches. So it's going to be fun to get that out there and to kind of clean up some misconceptions about her. So I'm looking forward to that.
So that's cool. Again, we're glad that we have you. So how does somebody, like if somebody is again so sort of new to this
Mhm.
and having all these beautiful ancient goddesses looking into it and your relationship with them, how does that affect you in your day-to-day life in 2025? Does
So the way that I see the gods and goddesses, it's almost very like Neoplatonic, very Orphic, where they are the sentient forces behind natural law and physics. So they exist outside of time. They are eternal and immortal, and they still have relevance today. So, you're looking around the world and you're seeing like, okay, so how does a goddess like Artemis fit into all this? She's a goddess. So hunting, I don't really hunt, she's a moon goddess, but it's mainly the light of the moon on the earth. Um, you know, Selene being the moon herself, she's the moon of heavens. Artemis is the moon as it comes through the trees. So she's the effects of the moon on the planet. And then the Hecate being the moon of the underworld. Um, you know, the way you have to look at it is what is, you know, Artemis's root purpose is the slayer of weakness. She calls the herd, so to speak. And that can be internal as well. So she's great for removing fear, removing doubt, removing those things that make us weaker, those things that hold us back. Artemis is great for um, destroying the ego and taking you back to that super keen-eyed hunter who's hunting at night, who needs her light to see the animals. She's revealing. So when you're looking at the different gods and you're trying to figure out how they're applying to our modern world, what their role is, you have to take it back to its simplest root and then kind of grab it from there. And the gods you're working with will tell you this stuff. So they will give you little sparks of inspiration. So they're not just going to come to you and be like, well, what am I doing with this god on my altar? They're going to say, here's why I'm here. It might take a little bit of time to discover it, but they will reveal it. And, for me, I had the luxury of allowing this to become a part of my life. So it's something that's ingrained in everything I do, whether it's art, whether it's, just walking around the house. We have altars everywhere. As you can see, I'm in my altar room right now. So it's, but you can also do that as well. Let's say you have a mundane job. You can kind of have your gods with you, guiding you with that aspect as well. A lot of people think that the gods rely on these huge ceremonies and huge rituals, when really this was religion for the people. This was something that was practical. It was something that you do in your everyday life. Take it back to that. Don't overcomplicate it. As far as like, for example, I have a lot of people about to say, hey, I can't do daily rituals. I can't, do this spell that requires me to do this however many number of times. I'm like, well, you don't have to. Like you can just cast your altar and vow, or sprinkle some incense grains, or sprinkle some barley, even a splash of your water, a splash of your morning coffee. All of that is rituals that empowers the God within your life, and more importantly, it just reminds you of that connection and the purpose in it.
it's beautiful. Speaking of your art, I'm going to show everybody my favorite tarot deck. This is so art to me. I practically use them with like finger gloves. Yeah, I'm just like the package it comes in, the box it comes in. You guys, again, artist and artist family. I'm
Yep.
sure I'm absolutely not doing justice. I just broke it anywhere. Um, these these are like turned into a sacred thing for me. They are so
Yeah.
beautiful. Again, I all the decks I have thrown around my house, sprayed and everything. Look at this beautiful box it comes from. Look at the
Uh-huh.
beautiful book that's within. So this is something you can get from Jeff Cullen Artistry, correct?
So that's actually on a site called attendthesabbaths.com.
Oh,
So I wrote
Stella.
the book. I wrote the book for that. I'm also a model on some of the cards. that's actually my husband's work. So he designed the cards. He took the photos. So it it was absolutely amazing to see him working on this because the card he never shot for a specific card. He let the cards reveal what that picture was for. So he would be designing the image, and all of a sudden these elements would start going into it, and it would become whatever card it was supposed to be.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah,
So
because
it
even
wasn't like this is the Four of Wands or anything like that.
exactly, exactly. So it would just grow into whatever card it wanted to be, and somehow it just all fit. It was just amazing, amazing, amazing process. And he's actually doing a Kickstarter for the third edition. So
Ah,
um, the-
no,
it
and
should be available. Yep, there we go.
appreciation for the human body is never. If you want
Right.
the most pretty, sexy, beautiful, embrace the human body. These cards are it. So when
And
you
he
put
also has a rune deck. Yeah, he has a
uh,
rune deck. He has an oracle deck. He has a Lenormand deck. So there's a big collection, and it's all part of the same world, the world of the witches deck. So all the decks will tie into each other, which is absolutely amazing.
that is beautiful. So again, you have a pan book coming up, which we will have to
Yep.
excitedly get soon. What is your vision for the future? What do you see you moving into something else or just expanding your reach, your art, bigger statues, bigger
I
what?
want to
What
go.
what do you
Yeah, I do want to go bigger. One of the great things about the company I was working with overseas was that so I will scan the file here and I'll send them the 3D rendering. They can make them huge, so they make them up to 7 feet tall. So I would love to get huge statues out there. But for right now, it's mainly writing, continuing evolving my art, sharing my practice. We're also working on clothing line, which is deviates us from the magical world, but it's got to be super awesome. So hopefully that's going to be available soon as well. And yeah, it's just we're trying to do as much projects as we can and get just as much share as much as of our art as we can with everyone.
and again, you guys, it is beautiful. It is everything is just creative, quality, artistic, magical. I mean, I cannot recommend you enough. So, for anybody, now that they are all intrigued and they want to know more about you, more about what you do, your work, have hire you to do work and things, where can people find you?
That's going to be jeffcullenartistry.com or at brewobros.com. So you can go to either one of those sites. We offer services. I offer readings on my site. I do the knuckle bones. Um, yeah, just shoot me a message wherever you want, and I can get you a quote. We love doing fine work. It's so much fun.
Beautiful. Social media, is there anywhere they should follow you?
You can follow me at Jeff Cullen Artistry on Instagram, TikTok, as well as Facebook.
Mm. So, any last word before we go? For again, we are in these crazy times. Thank goodness there's
Mhm.
just such a strong goddess that is just being discovered by so many people now, which
Right.
makes us very happy. Any words for anybody who's just going, where do I start? What do I?
What I would say is just jump in. You know, do not waste time trying to figure out, if you're being called, what you should do, what's the best way of doing it. Let your instincts guide you. That's gonna, the instinct is divine inspiration. It's this call from the gods to do. It's your divine heroes. That's what it was called in the ancient world. This was the voice of the gods in your head. So if you're drawn to it, you were led to it for a specific reason. So just dive in, gather as many resources as you can. Research, you obviously want to know about what you're doing, but there's no right or wrong. Just have fun with it, respect the gods, and really take that power back because we definitely need it.
Yes, we definitely need it now more than ever. So, well, thank you, Jeb. Good to see you. It's been too
Good to see you as
long.
well.
We're gonna have to figure out a path crossing again more soon.
Absolutely.
I would
Yeah.
love that. Love to your husband, your sister, your family, and everybody. You guys, this really is a family affair. One of the most magical families I've ever seen. Thank you so much, Jeff, for bringing your beautiful magic to the witching hour.
It is my absolute pleasure. Like I said, I love being here and you are amazing. So this was an honor.
Well, hope to see you soon live and nationwide. Otherwise, everybody like him, follow him. You're going to love this man like I do. Bye.